The Valorian Empire was old. It had ruled 17 star systems for more than 2,000 years. The Valorians were tall beings with purple skin and 4 eyes. They had great powers of the mind. They could move things without touching them. They could read thoughts. They could break a man's will with just a look. Emperor Calorith sat on his throne made of black crystal. He had ruled for 230 years. His body was old, but his mind was sharp like a blade. He had 4 children, 3 sons who were strong and powerful, and 1 daughter who was not. Princess Selith stood in the corner of the Great Hall. She was young by Valorian standards, only 60 years old. Her purple skin was lighter than her brother's. Her 4 eyes were always looking down at the floor. She had no powers of the mind. She was born without them. The royal doctors had also told her father something else. She could never have children. In the Valorian Empire, a woman who could not have children was worth nothing. A princess who could not have children was a disgrace. Selith had spent her whole life being reminded of this. Her brothers called her broken. The servants whispered behind her back. Her father barely looked at her. Today was different. Today her father had called her to the throne room. Selith walked across the long hall with her heart beating fast. The floor was made of polished stone that showed her reflection. She looked small and afraid. "Come closer," Emperor Calorith said. His voice was cold. Selith walked until she stood at the bottom of the steps that led to his throne. She kept her eyes down. "The humans have asked for a marriage alliance," the Emperor said. "They want to join their bloodline with ours. They think this will give them respect among the elder races." Selith said nothing. She did not understand why her father was telling her this. "I have decided to grant their request," Calorith continued. "You will marry a human." Selith looked up for the first time. Her 4 eyes were wide with shock. "Father, I do not understand. What is there to understand? You are useless to me here. You cannot continue my bloodline. You have no powers. You bring shame to this family every day you exist. But the humans do not know this. They ask for a princess, and I will give them one." The court members standing along the walls began to laugh softly. They understood what the Emperor was doing. He was throwing away his broken daughter like garbage. He was insulting the humans by giving them something worthless. "The humans are primitive creatures," the Emperor said. "They have only been traveling between stars for 100 years. They are like children playing in a garden they do not understand. They will be grateful for any connection to us. And when they discover what you really are, it will be too late. They will be stuck with you." Selith felt tears forming in her eyes. She had known her father did not love her. But hearing him say these words in front of the whole court was more painful than she had imagined. "The human delegation arrives tomorrow," the Emperor said. "You will be dressed in ceremonial robes. You will be presented as a gift. You will not speak unless spoken to. Do you understand?" "Yes, father," Selith whispered. "Good. Now leave my sight." Selith turned and walked back across the long hall. She could feel hundreds of eyes watching her. Some were amused. Some were pitying. None were kind. That night, Selith sat alone in her room. She looked out the window at the 3 moons that hung in the purple sky. She had always dreamed of leaving this place. But not like this. Not as an unwanted gift to a species her people considered animals. She had heard stories about humans. They were small and weak. They had no powers of the mind. They lived short lives, only 80 or 90 years. They were emotional and unpredictable. The Valorian scholars said they were barely intelligent enough to be called sentient. Selith wondered what her human husband would be like. Would he be cruel like her father? Would he be disappointed when he learned the truth about her? Would he throw her away too? She did not sleep that night. The next morning, servants came to prepare her. They dressed her in robes of silver and gold. They painted symbols of fertility on her face, a bitter joke that made Salith want to scream. They put jewels in her long dark hair. When they were finished, she looked like a true princess of the Valorian Empire. She looked like a lie. The human delegation arrived at midday. Salith watched from a window as their ship landed in the courtyard. It was a small vessel, simple and functional. Nothing like the elegant warships of the Valorian fleet. A group of humans walked out of the ship. They were shorter than Valorians, with only 2 eyes and skin in shades of brown and pink. They wore simple uniforms in dark blue. They looked around at the towering spires of the Imperial Palace with wonder in their eyes. Salith was brought to the throne room. She stood beside her father's throne, her hands folded in front of her, her eyes cast down. The human delegation was announced, and they walked in. There were 5 of them. 4 were clearly guards or officials, but one walked in front. He was of average height for a human, with brown hair and brown eyes. His face was neither handsome nor ugly. He was ordinary in every way. His name was Nathan Cole. He was a lieutenant commander in the United Earth Coalition. He had been chosen for this mission because he was good at understanding other cultures. He had studied the Valorians for years. He knew their language, their customs, their values. He also knew exactly what was happening. Nathan looked at the princess standing beside the throne. He saw how she trembled. He saw how she kept her eyes down. He saw the painted symbols of fertility on her face and understood their meaning. He saw a young woman who had been broken by her own family. Emperor Calrith smiled down at the humans. It was not a kind smile. "Welcome to the heart of the Valorian Empire," he said. "You have asked for an alliance through marriage. I have decided to honor your request. I present to you my daughter, Princess Salith. She will be your bride." The court waited. They expected the humans to be confused. They expected questions about which prince or high official would marry her. They expected the humans to realize, eventually, that they were being insulted. Nathan Cole stepped forward. He walked past his own delegation. He walked up the steps of the throne until he stood directly in front of Salith. The court gasped. No one approached the royal family without permission. Guards reached for their weapons, but Nathan did not attack. He did not threaten. He simply bowed low in the traditional Valorian fashion. It was a bow of deep respect, the kind given to equals. Then he took Salith's trembling hand in his own. "It would be my honor," he said. His voice was warm. His eyes were kind. Salith looked up for the first time and saw something she had never seen before. She saw someone looking at her like she mattered. The court fell completely silent. This was not the reaction they had expected. The humans were supposed to be confused or offended. They were supposed to reject the damaged princess. They were supposed to provide entertainment for the Valorian nobles. Instead, this ordinary human man had accepted her without hesitation. He had bowed to her like she was worthy of respect. He was still holding her hand, and his grip was gentle. Emperor Calreth's smile faded. Something had gone wrong with his plan. He did not understand what, but he could feel it. "Very well," he said coldly. "The marriage will take place tomorrow. Then you will take her and leave." "We would be honored to stay for a proper ceremony," Nathan said, still looking at Salith. "But I understand if that is not possible. Either way, I am grateful for this gift." He said the word gift without any sarcasm. He said it like he truly meant it. Salith felt something strange happening in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was hope. She had not felt hope in a very long time. The wedding was quick and cold. Emperor Calrith did not attend. Salith's brothers watched from a distance with mocking smiles on their faces. A low-ranking priest performed the ceremony in a small side chamber, not the grand temple where royal weddings usually took place. Nathan, did not seem to mind. He spoke his vows clearly and held Salith's hand throughout the ceremony. When it was over, he smiled at her like something wonderful had happened. Salith did not understand him at all. They left the Valorian homeworld that same evening. Salith stood at the window of the human ship and watched the purple planet grow smaller and smaller. She had lived there her whole life. She had been miserable there every single day, but it was still the only home she had ever known. Now she was leaving with strangers. She was married to an alien she had met only hours ago. She was traveling to a planet she had never seen. She was terrified. The journey to Earth would take 3 weeks. The human ship was small compared to Valorian vessels. There were only 20 crew members. Salith was given a private cabin that was clean but simple. There were no servants to attend her. There were no guards at her door. She stayed in her cabin for the first 3 days. She did not know what else to do. She expected Nathan to come and demand things from her. She expected him to be angry or disappointed. She expected the mask of kindness to fall away and reveal the truth beneath. But Nathan did not demand anything. He knocked on her door each morning. When she opened it, he would be standing there with a tray of food. The food was strange, but he always explained what each item was. "This is called toast," he said on the first day. "It is bread that has been heated until it becomes crispy. And this is butter. It comes from an animal called a cow. And this is orange juice. It comes from a fruit that grows on trees." Salith ate the toast and butter and drank the orange juice. They tasted different from anything she had eaten before. Not better or worse. Just different. Nathan sat with her while she ate. He did not stare at her. He did not ask uncomfortable questions. He talked about Earth. "There are oceans that cover most of the planet," he said. "Water as far as you can see in every direction. And mountains that touch the clouds. And forests where the trees turn red and golden orange when the weather gets cold. Why do they change colors?" Salith asked. It was the first question she had asked him. Nathan smiled like her question was a wonderful gift. "It has to do with the sunlight and the temperature. I am not a scientist, so I cannot explain it properly. But I can show you when we get there. There is a forest near my family's home. It is beautiful in autumn. Your family?" Salith felt her stomach tighten. She had not thought about his family. "My mother and father. They live in a place called Montana. It is a region with many farms and open land. They are excited to meet you." Salith looked down at her hands. "Do they know about me? Do they know why your emperor gave me away?" Nathan was quiet for a moment. "I told them that you were a princess who needed a new home. I told them that you were brave enough to leave everything you knew behind. That is all they need to know. But I am not brave, and I am not a proper princess. I am broken. I cannot give you children. I have no powers. I am worthless." The words came out before she could stop them. They were the words she had heard all her life. They were the words she had come to believe. Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. His grip was gentle, just like it had been in the throne room. "Salith, I need you to listen to me carefully. I do not care if you can have children. I do not care if you have powers. Those things do not determine a person's worth. Not to humans. Then what does? Kindness, courage, the way you treat others, the love you give and receive. Those are the things that matter." Salith did not know what to say. These ideas were so different from everything she had been taught. She wanted to believe him, but part of her was still waiting for the trick to be revealed. "Why did you agree to marry me?" she asked. "You could have refused. You could have demanded someone better." Nathan smiled sadly. "I saw how afraid you were. I saw how your father looked at you like you were nothing. I could not leave you there. I could not let you face whatever future they had planned for you. And besides, I think you and I are more alike than you know. How can that be? You are human. I am Valorian. Before I joined the coalition, I was just a farm boy from Montana. I was not particularly smart or strong or talented. My teachers said I would never amount to anything. My classmates ignored me. I was ordinary in every way. That does not seem so bad. It felt bad at the time. I felt worthless too. I felt like I did not matter. Then one day, my father took me aside and told me something I have never forgotten. He said that every person has value, not because of what they can do, but simply because they exist. He said the universe bothered to make each of us, and that means each of us has a purpose. Salith thought about these words. They were strange and new, but they felt warm somehow. I do not know if I believe that, she said. That is okay. You do not have to believe it today, but maybe someday you will. And until then, I will believe it enough for both of us. Over the next 2 weeks, Salith slowly began to leave her cabin. Nathan introduced her to the crew members one by one. They were all kind to her. None of them stared at her purple skin or her 4 eyes. They treated her like she was normal. There was a woman named Lucy who ran the ship's kitchen. She taught Salith how to make something called cookies. They were small and sweet and crumbled in her mouth. Salith burned the first batch. Lucy just laughed and told her to try again. There was an old man named Henry who was the ship's doctor. He examined Salith gently and told her she was in good health. He did not mention her inability to have children. He did not seem to care about it at all. There was a young man named Peter who loved to play a game called chess. He taught Salith the rules and played with her every evening. She lost every game at first, but she began to improve. By the time the ship reached Earth, Salith felt something she had never felt before. She felt like she belonged. The ship landed in a place called Montana. Salith stepped out onto the surface of an alien world and looked around. The sky was blue instead of purple. The air smelled like grass and earth and something sweet she could not name. 2 people were waiting by the landing area. A short woman with gray hair and a warm smile. A tall man with weathered hands and kind eyes. They were Nathan's parents. The woman walked forward before Salith could speak. She wrapped her arms around the alien princess and pulled her close. "Welcome to the family," Betty Cole said. "We are so happy you are here." Salith did not know what to do. No one had ever hugged her before. She stood frozen for a moment. Then, slowly, she put her arms around the small human woman and hugged her back. George Cole shook his head and smiled. "Give the girl room to breathe, Betty. She just traveled across the galaxy." "Hush," Betty said, still hugging Salith. "She needs to know she is loved." Loved. The word hit Salith like a wave. She had never been loved before. She had not even known what it felt like. Tears began to fall from her 4 eyes. She could not stop them. She did not want to stop them. Betty held her tighter. "It is okay, dear. You are safe now. You are home." Home. Salith had never had a home before, but standing in the Montana sunshine, wrapped in the arms of a human woman she had just met, she began to think that maybe she finally did. Nathan stood nearby, watching his mother embrace his wife. He was smiling. This was why he had agreed to the marriage. Not for politics, not for alliances, but for this. For the chance to show someone that they mattered. For the chance to build something good in a universe that could be so cruel. The farmhouse was small and old. The paint was peeling in places. The porch creaked when you walked on it. The kitchen was warm and smelled like baking bread. It was perfect. Salith looked at Nathan with her 4 eyes full of tears and wonder. "Thank you," she whispered. Nathan took her hand. "Welcome home, Salith. Welcome home." 5 years passed like water flowing in a river. Salith changed in ways she never thought possible. She learned to cook human food. Her specialty became apple pie, using apples from the trees behind the farmhouse. Betty taught her the recipe that had been in the Cole family for 4 generations. The first pie was terrible. The crust was burned and the filling was too sweet. But Betty just smiled and said practice makes perfect by the 5th year. Salith's apple pie won first place at the county fair. She learned to work in the garden. George showed her how to plant seeds and pull weeds and water the soil. She discovered she had a gift for growing things. Plants seemed to respond to her touch. Flowers bloomed brighter. Vegetables grew larger. Soon the garden was famous throughout the region. Scientists came from the coalition to study her techniques. They discovered that Valorians had a natural connection to plant life that humans did not share. Salith was not powerless after all. She simply had a different kind of power, one that her own people had never valued. She learned to love and be loved. Nathan was patient and kind every single day. He never raised his voice. He never made her feel small. When she made mistakes, he helped her fix them. When she succeeded, he celebrated with her. When she cried, he held her close and let her tears fall on his shoulder. One night, 3 years into their marriage, Salith asked him a question that had been on her mind for a long time. "Do you regret it? Marrying me?" They were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Nathan turned to look at her with surprise in his eyes. "Why would you ask that?" "Because I cannot give you children. Because I am not human. Because you could have married someone from your own species. Someone whole." Nathan took her hand. He did this often. Salith had come to love the feeling of his fingers wrapped around hers. "Salith, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. I wake up every morning grateful that you are in my life. I do not need children to be happy. I need you, but your family line will end with you. Family is not about blood. Family is about love. And we have plenty of love to share." Salith did not fully understand what he meant. Not until the following year, Nathan came home one evening with news. There was a planet called Kessler 4 on the edge of human space. A war had torn it apart. Thousands of children had been orphaned. The coalition was looking for families to adopt them. "What do you think?" Nathan asked. "Should we go see if there is a child who needs us?" They went to Kessler 4 together. The refugee camp was crowded and dirty. Children of all ages sat in rows, their eyes empty and sad. They had lost their parents, their homes, their entire worlds. Salith walked among them slowly. She looked at each face. She felt her heart breaking for every single one of them. Then she saw a small boy sitting alone in the corner. He was maybe 5 years old. His skin was brown and his hair was curly and black. He was holding a torn stuffed animal that might have once been a dog. His eyes were fixed on the ground. "What is his name?" Salith asked the worker. "Kevin. His parents died in the bombing. He has not spoken since." Salith walked over to Kevin. She knelt down in front of him. He did not look up. "Hello, Kevin," she said softly. "My name is Salith. I know I look different from you. I have purple skin and 4 eyes. But I lost my family too. I know how much it hurts." Kevin still did not look up, but his grip on the stuffed animal loosened slightly. "I have a garden at my home," Salith continued, "with flowers of every color. And there are apple trees that grow the sweetest apples in the world. And my husband Nathan makes the best pancakes. Would you like to see it someday?" Slowly, very slowly, Kevin raised his eyes. He looked at Salith's face. He saw her 4 eyes, her purple skin, her gentle smile. "Can I bring Mr. Dog?" he whispered. His voice was rough from not being used. Salith felt tears forming in her eyes. "Of course you can bring Mr. Dog. He's part of the family too." They adopted Kevin that same week. Within a year, they had adopted 2 more children. A girl named Maria from a colony ship that had crashed. A boy named Danny, whose parents had died from a disease that humans had not yet learned to cure. The farmhouse became loud and busy and full of life. George and Betty were the best grandparents in the galaxy. They spoiled the children with cookies and stories and endless love. Nathan coached Kevin's soccer team. Salith taught Maria how to paint with colors made from flower petals. Danny followed George around the farm, learning how to fix engines and build fences. It was everything Salith had never dared to dream of. But across the galaxy, someone was watching. Emperor Calrith sat on his black crystal throne and listened to the reports from his spies. The daughter he had thrown away was becoming famous. Humans talked about her wherever they went. Other species were beginning to ask questions about the Valorian way of life. A trade delegation from the Kethrani Empire had visited Earth the previous year. When they returned home, they spoke of the purple-skinned princess who worked in a garden and adopted orphan children and smiled like she was the happiest person alive. They said she was broken, the Kethrani ambassador told his council. They said she was worthless. But she seems more alive than any Valorian I have ever met. These words spread. Other species began to look at the Valorian Empire with new eyes. They saw an ancient civilization that valued power above kindness. They saw a culture that threw away its own children. They saw something ugly. Emperor Calrith felt his grip on the galaxy beginning to slip. Species that had been loyal for centuries were now asking uncomfortable questions. Trade agreements were becoming harder to negotiate. The fear that had kept the empire strong was starting to fade. And all because of one defective daughter who refused to be forgotten. Calrith summoned his war council. The human problem has grown beyond acceptable limits, he announced. My daughter has become a symbol of their foolish values. She must be reclaimed and executed for abandoning her people. What of the humans? Asked Admiral Vorath, commander of the Imperial fleet. They will be taught their place. Prepare the warships. We move on their homeworld within the month. The humans have done nothing to provoke us. Other species will question our actions. Then let them question. We are the Valorian Empire. We do not answer to lesser beings. Admiral Vorath bowed his head. He had served the Emperor for over a century. He had conquered worlds without hesitation. He had destroyed entire civilizations on command. But something about this order felt wrong. He remembered the princes he had seen occasionally in the palace halls. The quiet girl who kept her eyes down. The one everyone said was broken. He had always thought she seemed sad. But broken? He was not sure about that anymore. Still, he was a soldier. He followed orders. The fleet will be ready within 3 weeks, my emperor. Good. This time, we will not make the mistake of being merciful. The humans will learn what happens when you meddle in Valorian affairs. Thousands of light years away, Salith sat on the porch of her farmhouse and watched her children playing in the yard. Kevin was teaching Maria how to catch a ball. Danny was helping George repair a fence. Nathan was in the kitchen, preparing dinner and singing an old Earth song. She did not know that warships were being fueled. She did not know that soldiers were being gathered. She did not know that her father had decided she must die. She only knew that she was happy. For the first time in her life, she was truly happy, but the storm was coming, and it would test everything she had come to believe about humans, about love, and about herself. The warning came at midnight. A deep space sensor station on the edge of human territory detected the Valorian fleet. 47 warships moving in formation toward Earth. It was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 100 years. The news spread across human space within hours. People woke up to emergency broadcasts. Schools and businesses closed. Families gathered in their homes and watched the reports with fear in their eyes. Nathan received the call at 3 in the morning. He listened to the voice on the other end of the line with a face that grew more serious with each passing second. When the call ended, he sat on the edge of the bed for a long moment. Salith woke up and saw him sitting there. "What is wrong?" "Your father has sent a fleet. They are coming for you." For us, Salith felt cold spread through her body. She had hoped this day would never come. She had allowed herself to believe that her father had forgotten about her, that she was too small to matter. How long do we have? 3 weeks. Maybe less. Then I should leave. I should go somewhere far away where they cannot find me. I will not let my children be hurt because of me. Nathan turned to look at her. His eyes were fierce in a way she had never seen before. "Salith, you are not going anywhere. You are my wife. You are the mother of our children. This is your home. And we do not abandon our own. But your people will die. Your planet will burn. All because of me. No, if anything burns, it will be because of your father's cruelty. Not because of you. You did nothing wrong. You never did anything wrong." The next morning, Nathan traveled to the capital city of the coalition. He requested a meeting with the Assembly, the governing body of all human space. His request was granted immediately. The assembly chamber was a large, circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from every human colony were present. They watched as Nathan Cole, a simple diplomat from Montana, walked to the center of the room. "My name is Nathan Cole," he began. 5 years ago, I was part of a delegation to the Valorian Empire. I went there expecting to negotiate a simple trade agreement. Instead, I was given a gift. A princess named Salith. He paused and looked around the room. The Valorians thought they were insulting us. They gave us a princess who could not have children. A princess without the mental powers her people prize so highly. They called her broken. They called her worthless. They expected us to reject her or treat her as poorly as they did. But we are not Valorians. We are humans. We do not measure a person's worth by what they can produce. We measure it by who they are, by how they love, by how they live. His voice grew stronger. Salith is not broken. She is kind and brave and wonderful. She tends a garden that feeds our community. She adopted 3 orphan children and gave them a home. She makes apple pie that won first place at the county fair. She is the best thing that ever happened to me. And now her father wants her back. He wants to execute her for the crime of being happy. He wants to destroy our planet for the crime of loving her. Nathan looked at each representative in turn. I am asking you to fight. Not for territory or resources or political power, but for something more important. For the idea that every person has value. For the belief that love is stronger than cruelty. For my wife and my children and my home. He took a deep breath. I know we are outmatched. The Valorians have better ships, better weapons, more experience. But I have seen what humans can do when they believe in something. I have seen ordinary people do extraordinary things. I have seen courage where others saw only weakness. So, I am asking you, will you stand with us? Will you fight for what we believe in? Will you show the galaxy what humans are made of? The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Representative Clara Morgan from the Mars colony stood up. I vote yes. Another representative stood. Then another. Then a dozen more. Within minutes, the entire assembly was on its feet. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would go to war. The 3 weeks before the battle were the busiest in human history. Every ship that could fly was called into service. Cargo vessels were fitted with weapons. Mining ships became improvised bombers. Personal yachts were turned into scout craft. Scientists worked day and night to develop new technologies. Engineers pushed engines beyond their limits. Soldiers trained for the fight of their lives, and it was not just humans. Word of the coming battle spread across the galaxy. Other species watched and wondered what they should do. The Valorians had been cruel masters for 2,000 years. Many had suffered under their rule, but no one had ever dared to stand against them. Until now. Kathrani battle squadron of 6 ships jumped into Earth orbit 1 week before the Valorians were expected to arrive. Their commander sent a simple message. We heard a human princess needed help. We could not stay home and do nothing. A Mortis medical frigate arrived the next day. The Mortis were healers, not fighters. But they could save lives after the battle was over. Their captain said they believed in what the humans were doing. Small ships came from a dozen other worlds. Species that had no stake in the fight. Species that had never met Salith or Nathan or any human at all. They came because they believed that what the Valorians were doing was wrong. Nathan stood on the observation deck of the Coalition flagship and watched the Allied fleet gathering. Ships of all shapes and sizes from 100 different worlds. All there because humanity had done something simple. They had loved someone the galaxy said was unworthy of love. Salith came to stand beside him. She had refused to stay on Earth. She had insisted on being present for whatever happened next. You should have stayed with the children, Nathan said. Betty and George are taking care of them. They are safe. I needed to be here. With you, this might not end well. I know. But if it ends badly, I want to be by your side. I spent 60 years alone and afraid. I do not want to spend another day like that. Nathan took her hand. They stood together and watched the ships moving in formation around Earth. Thank you, Salith said softly. For what? For seeing me. That day in the throne room. Everyone else saw a broken princess. You saw a person who needed help. You saw someone worth saving. That is because you are worth saving. You always were. Your father was wrong about you, Salith. The whole Valorian Empire was wrong about you. Salith leaned her head against his shoulder. I used to think I was nothing. I used to believe everything they said about me. But you showed me a different way to see myself. You showed me that I matter. You matter more than you know. This whole fleet, all these ships, all these people from all these worlds, they are here because of what you represent. Not because you are a princess, but because you prove that anyone can be loved. Anyone can belong. Anyone can find a home. Salith felt tears forming in her 4 eyes. Not tears of sadness. Tears of something she had not known existed until she met Nathan Cole. Tears of gratitude. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, Nathan said. And when this is over, we are going to go home and watch the sunset from our porch. We are going to eat apple pie and listen to the children laughing. We are going to live the life we built together. Promise? I promise. Outside the window, the Allied fleet continued to grow. More ships arriving every hour. More species joining the cause. More people standing up against cruelty and fear. The Valorians were still out there, getting closer with every passing moment. But humanity was ready, and they were not alone. The Valorian fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning. 40-7 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and took formation around the edge of the solar system. They were magnificent and terrible. Each one was larger than anything the humans had. Each one carried weapons that could melt cities to glass. Admiral Varath stood on the bridge of the flagship and looked at the sensor readings with surprise. He had expected to find a handful of primitive human vessels. Instead, he found a fleet of over 200 ships. Where did they all come from? He demanded. Multiple species, Admiral. Kathrani, Mortis, Valani, and others. plus a large number of human vessels of various types. It does not matter. Our ships are superior. Open a channel to the human command. The message was broadcast across all frequencies. This is Admiral Vorath of the Valorian Empire. We have come to retrieve Princess Salith and bring her to justice for crimes against the Empire. Surrender her immediately, and we will leave your world in peace. Resist, and you will be destroyed. The response came from the Coalition flagship. It was not from an admiral or a general. Or it was not from an admiral or a general, or a Jitavur, an admiral or a general. It was from a simple diplomat named Nathan Cole. This is Lieutenant Commander Nathan Cole of the United Earth Coalition. Princess Salith is my wife. She is a citizen of Earth and a member of my family. She has committed no crimes. We will not surrender her. We will not surrender anyone. If you want a fight, you will get one. But I promise you this. You will pay a higher price than you ever imagined. Admiral Vorath smiled coldly. Brave words from a primitive species. Prepare for destruction. Before you give that order, Admiral, I want you to understand something. We know we might lose. We know your ships are better than ours. We know your weapons are stronger. But we are fighting for something you do not understand. We are fighting for love. We are fighting for family. We are fighting for the idea that every person matters. Those are the words of fools and dreamers. Maybe, but fools and dreamers built this fleet. Fools and dreamers crossed the galaxy to stand with us. Fools and dreamers have already changed the way the universe sees your empire. And win or lose, that will never change. The channel closed. Admiral Vorath gave the order to attack. The Battle of Sol Station lasted 18 hours. The Valorian ships moved forward in perfect formation. They had fought 1,000 battles. They had conquered worlds without number. They were the most feared military force in the galaxy. The Allied fleet was chaos in comparison. Human ships that had never seen combat. Kathrani warriors who had never fought alongside other species. Medical frigates that had no weapons at all. They were outmatched in every way that could be measured. But they had something the Valorians did not. They believed. The first hour was brutal. 3 human cruisers were destroyed trying to hold the defensive line. A Kathrani battleship took heavy damage protecting a transport full of civilians. Smaller ships were lost by the dozen, but the line did not break. Human pilots flew their ships directly into Valorian weapon systems. Engineers worked in damaged sections with no air, their suits the only thing keeping them alive. Soldiers fought hand-to-hand when their weapons failed. They died by the hundreds. And still they did not retreat. Nathan Cole was not supposed to be on the front lines. He was a diplomat, not a soldier. But he had refused to stay behind while others fought for his family. He commanded a small diplomatic shuttle that had been fitted with mining lasers. It was never designed for battle. 9 hours into the fighting, a Valorian destroyer broke through the defensive line. It was heading straight for Earth. If it reached the planet, it could destroy whole cities before anyone could stop it. Nathan put his shuttle directly in its path. He opened a channel that was broadcast across the entire battle. This is Lieutenant Commander Nathan Cole. I am speaking to the Valorian destroyer approaching Earth. I have no weapons that can hurt you. I have no shields that can stop you. My ship is small and weak and ordinary. Just like me, the destroyer continued its approach. But behind me is my home. Behind me is my wife, my children, my world. Behind me is everything I love. And I will not move. You will not pass me without killing me first. The destroyer slowed slightly. Its captain was confused. This made no sense. One small ship against the destroyer. It was suicide. I know what you are thinking, Nathan continued. You are thinking that I am a fool. You are thinking that one small ship cannot stop you. And you are right. I cannot stop you. But I can slow you down. I can give my friends time to reach you. I can show everyone watching that humans do not abandon their own. And you should know something else. Every human in this fleet feels exactly the same way. Every single one of them would take my place without hesitation. That is what you are fighting against. Not ships and weapons, but love so strong that people will die for it without a second thought. The destroyer hesitated for one crucial moment. In that moment, 3 coalition cruisers that had been racing to intercept arrived at the destroyer's position. They opened fire from 3 different angles. Their weapons were not as powerful as Valorian weapons, but there were 3 of them, and the destroyer was alone. The destroyer fell. Word of Nathan's stand spread across the battle in seconds. Crews who had been exhausted found new strength. Ships that had been retreating turned around. The Allied fleet fought harder than ever before. The tide began to turn. Admiral Vorath watched the battle reports with growing disbelief. His superior ships were being overwhelmed by sheer determination. His crews were disciplined and skilled, but they were not prepared for enemies who did not fear death. They were not prepared for people who fought like they had nothing to lose. 14 hours into the battle, the Valorian flagship was surrounded. Admiral Vorath could have fought to the death. It was what a proper Valorian commander would do, but something had changed in him. He had watched the humans fight for hours. He had seen their courage and their sacrifice. He had heard Nathan Cole's words broadcast across the void. He thought about the princess he had seen in the palace long ago. The quiet girl with sad eyes. The one everyone said was broken. She had found people who loved her. She had built a family. She had become someone worth fighting for. Maybe she had never been broken at all. Admiral Vorath gave the order to surrender. When it was over, 17 Valorian ships were destroyed. 22 were captured. 8 managed to flee back toward the Empire. The Allied fleet had lost over 60 vessels, but Earth was safe. Emperor Calrith watched the reports from his throne room with cold fury. His fleet, his invincible fleet, had been defeated by primitives and dreamers. His daughter was still alive. The galaxy was watching. He tried to rally support for a second attack, but his allies were no longer listening. The species that had feared the Empire for centuries now saw that it could be beaten. They saw that there was another way to live. Within 5 years, the Valorian Empire collapsed. Not from military defeat, but from abandonment. One by one, the subject worlds declared independence. The trade networks fell apart. The fear that had held everything together evaporated like morning mist. Emperor Calrith died alone in his palace, surrounded by empty halls and silent servants. No one mourned him. Nathan Cole returned to Earth with burns on his hands and exhaustion in his bones. His shuttle had taken heavy damage in the final hours of the battle. He had barely made it out alive. Seleth was waiting for him on the farmhouse porch. Kevin, Maria, and Danny stood beside her. Betty was crying happy tears. George was trying to pretend he was not crying too. Nathan walked across the yard and up the steps. He looked at his wife with all the love he had. "I kept my promise," he said. Seleth threw her arms around him and held him close. "You foolish, wonderful man. You could have died. But I did not. And we have sunsets to watch and apple pie to eat and children to raise. I love you, Nathan Cole." "I love you too, Seleth Cole." They stood there on the porch as the sun set over Montana. The sky turned orange and pink and gold, just like it had 1,000 times before. The children gathered around them, and Betty brought out fresh cookies. And George started telling a story about the time he fixed an engine with nothing but wire and determination. It was an ordinary evening in an ordinary farmhouse on an ordinary planet, but there was nothing ordinary about the love that filled it. In the years that followed, Salith became the first alien ambassador to the new Galactic Federation. She traveled to worlds across the galaxy, telling the story of what she had learned from humans. She spoke about kindness and family and the power of being seen. "I was told I was worthless," she would say. "I was told I was broken. But a human man looked at me and saw something different. He saw someone worth loving. And that love changed everything." Her message spread across the stars. Species that had valued only power began to question their ways. Cultures that had discarded their unwanted began to reconsider. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely, because one human had refused to see a person as worthless. Every evening, when her work was done, Salith returned to Montana, to a farmhouse with creaking floorboards and a garden full of flowers from 100 worlds, to 3 children who had grown into remarkable young adults, to a husband with kind eyes and gentle hands who waited for her on the porch with 2 cups of tea. "How was your day?" Nathan would ask. "Better now that I am home," Salith would answer.